I'm going to be drawing 3 of the most famous manga chapters in just 1 week. The timer starts now, starting out with One Piece. This is the chapter Luffy stands up to Kaido and Big Mom, declaring that he's going to be the king of the pirates. This chapter gives me chills to read, so I'm super excited to draw it. Day 1, hours 1 before I'm getting into the rhythm of it and learning the One Piece style. Although I am gradually starting to realise how big of a challenge I've actually taken on. I had no clue the amount of effort this would be. The first thing I find is that I need to improve at backgrounds. They're taking me the longest to draw with their insane amounts of detail, and I have to do something about it. While I've heard some mangaka use photos for tracing over on their background, this isn't what I'm going to be doing. I'm focusing on conveying the main shapes as simply as possible and just trying to get the point across with as few brushstrokes as necessary. This also applies to how I'm trying to make these characters. Now, while some of these panels are quick to draw, like the face close-ups, others took way longer. As you'll see throughout this video, I tend to spend a massive amount of time on important panels, trying to make every little detail right. While already I'm feeling like there's some decent progress, which is great news, I'm also making a few mistakes. Number 1, where I'm not drawing on a normal size canvas, I'll occasionally over-zoom in, meaning that once I zoom back out, the proportions are a mess. And secondly, my canvas size for this entire artwork was 1920 by 1080. This means that when I split it up into 16ths and then draw smaller background characters taking up like an eighth of that, I have about 4 pixels to work with. Not ideal. I do try and correct these mistakes as I move forward though, so I don't want to hype myself up too much because this is just the first one, but I'm feeling like there's already some noticeable improvement so far. If I can keep up this rate of improvement, it could be pretty huge for my art. That is of course easier said than done, as I still didn't know how much harder this challenge would get. Aside from that, this final panel is looking fire and I can't stop myself from putting it in colour, so after 11 hours and 10 minutes, I've now completed this first chapter. On to day 3. The manga I'm going to be drawing is Naruto chapter 699, let's go. While this chapter isn't a fight scene or some crazy moment, it's a super important chapter. This is when they do the hand sign to break the infinite Tsukiyomi and literally save the whole world, finishing the story. Now I thought that choosing a chapter like this that was calm would make it easy to draw, but this didn't turn out to be the case, as you'll see. Immediately I'm noticing how these Naruto panels are different to draw than the One Piece panels. Not only in the style, but also in the way these panels are simpler with less going on. This could also be because it's after the fights are over versus One Piece was in the middle of a huge battle. So while these drawings are looking better and better, what I need to account for is I'm getting slower and slower. 5 hours into this chapter and I haven't even got through a quarter of it. I have to learn to be quick and accurate at the same time, because if I keep going at this rate, it'll be so difficult for me to complete this challenge with less than 5 days left. On the upside, I'm learning some pretty cool tricks while doing this. The shading is really interesting in the way that they can create scratches and shadows quickly but effectively with just simple lines. I also like how they use white lines to show the form when it's a black colour, and of course anime style I like with the clean lines and efficient use of brushstrokes, especially for stuff like clothing folds and expressions. So as I'm going through these, I'm starting to draw a little bit faster, but more importantly, I'm just really getting into the flow of it. I'm drawing well, I'm feeling focused, which is such a good experience. There's not total consistency. I think I am still improving even more, and occasionally I'll just mess up the proportions and they'll look weird for some reason. To be honest, I was feeling really good about these until all of a sudden, a few of them just start going to trash. Like, look at Hinata and Naruto, what happened? Either way, in general, I'm still learning and improving more. I'm getting faster at drawing the backgrounds accurately, which is huge because they take massive amounts of time. And when I focus on getting the shape clear in my mind first and drawing it simply, I'm getting better at being able to draw quickly without messing up the proportions. And instead, once I got this, it's arguably looking even better than when I go slowly. Another thing to say is that my respect for mangaka is huge. They do this every single week with drawings that are so much better than mine, but also the fact that I'm only copying the drawing aspect of it. They're also doing all the other stuff involved in making a manga at the same time, which is crazy. So yeah, I gained some huge respect for these people during this challenge. And now, finally, after spending even more time on these and trying to perfect all the last ones, I get this chapter done after 17 hours with some colour on the last one as well. With only 2 days left, I'm onto the final manga, Dragon Ball Z. And I think this one isn't even a question as to which chapter I should do. Chapter 123, Life or Death. This is where Goku first turns Super Saiyan. It's an epic chapter, so I just had to do it. The first thing I noticed when doing these is how nice the Dragon Ball style is to draw. With the way their faces are built and combined with the outfits and everything, it makes it just really satisfying to draw. I was scared I was going to struggle with the perspective when they were flying, but I think I'm managing it pretty well and it's not as hard as I anticipated. And you can see how in some of these important drawings, like when Frieza gets introduced, I get caught up in all the small details and trying to make it perfect, so I end up spending way more time on these panels. And to be honest, I'm probably going to do the same thing for the first Super Saiyan panel. I still need to prioritize though, because so many things happen in this chapter and I can't be spending over an hour on each and every drawing. It's looking good so far though, and I'm pretty happy to spend some more time to get it right. The flip side of this is that I don't need to try and get every detail on tiny characters and unimportant panels. I mean, in the actual thing, there's less detail than what I was trying to make in some of mine. Like, look at Goku's hands here. What is that? Now I'm going all out on this iconic Goku Super Saiyan panel to be the test to see how much I've improved from this challenge and see if it was worth it. While doing this, I saturated the shadows a bit more than I usually do to stylize it, and I think it's not a bad touch. I spent like over 2 hours on this one drawing, and I'm still trying to be loose with it. I think it turns out pretty good though. So after finishing up with these last few, this chapter took me a total of 11 hours and 20 minutes to draw, which adds up to 39 hours and 30 minutes for these 3 chapters over the last week.